I always got more publicity than other people, and it wasn't like I was trying. In fact, I don't know exactly why. Maybe you can tell me why.
Oh, I could definitely tell you. You said a lot of wild shit.
Maybe. Maybe
You said a lot of wild shit.
Ladies and gentlemen, the pleb is back. In this report, we got to talk about this Joe Rogan and Trump podcast because last night, history was made and Trump absolutely killed it on the Joe Rogan podcast. There was all kinds of amazing moments in this 3-hour interview, and I'm going to bring you the best moments from last night's show. So stick around. You won't want to miss this report. Before we start this report, please double check if you're still subscribed. I'm currently being shadow banned here on YouTube, and people are having a hard time finding my videos or getting notifications for my latest videos. So if you want to help me and support the real news, please smash subscribe and let's start the report. Welcome to your Saturday report. Ladies and gentlemen, history was made last night, and this Joe Rogan and Trump podcast definitely lived up to the hype. Now, this podcast was released 15 hours ago and already has 13 million views. It's well on its way to being the most listened to Joe Rogan podcasts of all time. Now, this podcast was everything I thought it would be and actually more. There's just so many amazing moments, and we're going to cover them on today's episode. All the best moments. I went through it all to bring it to you. We're going to kick off today's show with Elon Musk agreeing with this clip, by the way, where Joe Rogan says that being a Republican is the new punk rock. Republicans are the new rebels. Watch this.
The rebels are Republicans now. They're like, you want to be a rebel, you want to be punk rock, you want to buck the system, you're a conservative now. That's how crazy. And then the liberals are now pro silencing criticism. They're pro censorship online. They're talking about regulating free speech and they're regulating the First Amendment. It's bananas to watch.
Joe, they come after their political opponent.
Well, they
I
do.
got more guys. I always say, I kid, but I'm not kidding. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the meanest of them all. He'd kill you in 2 seconds if he didn't like you, right? I've been under investigation more than Alphonse Capone, only because it's political opponent stuff. And I've won. I won the big case in Florida. I'm winning the other stuff. You win, but you know what they did? They did something that's only done in third world countries. They came after their political opponent.
Yes.
I could have put crooked Hillary in jail.
Well, not only that, but they're weaponizing it by saying that that's what you're going to do once you get in office.
Isn't it
By
great?
ignoring what they're doing right now. It's crazy.
I heard it. Somebody was defending me today. They said, no, they say that's what you're doing to him. They're going, he's going to put us in jail. He's going to invest.
That's what you're
doing. That's
doing.
what you're doing to him.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, will you do that? Will you do that to him, to them, if you win? The presidency has tremendous power. I could have put crooked Hillary
I
in
respected
jail.
that you didn't because what you said was it would be bad for the country.
These leftists are absolute hypocrites. They do what I call projecting. When they accuse their opponents of doing something, it's because they are doing it themselves. And yes, Joe Rogan is right. The conservatives are the real rebels now. The left went from raging against the machine to raging for it. It's the weirdest thing ever. And in another interesting moment from this podcast, Trump says that the Google CEO contacted him after he did his shift at McDonald's and said it was some of the largest searches they've ever seen on their search engine. Watch.
So I did McDonald's last week.
I saw that.
And I actually got a call from your friends at Google, from Sundar. That's pretty good, right? He said, this is the biggest thing we've had in years.
The at McDonald's?
At McDonald's. Did you know that? It was one of the...
It was funny.
Who's a great guy, by the way. But he said, this McDonald's thing, I want to tell you, it's one of the biggest things we've ever had on Google. It just hit. But the reason I did it, and I actually, you never know about this stuff. I thought it was a throwaway. Mm-hmm. I didn't think our conversation was a throwaway, but I thought I'd walk in, and that was only to highlight the fact. And I have a friend, he owns like 56 of these McDonald's, and he said, "Do you want to use one?" I said, "Yeah, I love it." So we went there, and the crowd was crazy. They had 28,000 people around the whole thing. Did you see the outside? It was crazy.
Yeah, that was insane. I showed that on the show, man. There was a massive crowd outside that McDonald's. It was insane.
The cars couldn't get through. Secret Service was not exactly thrilled. We had no idea what the hell. But I went into the place, and I did the French fry thing, and it just hit. But that's like in life. Sometimes you do. I thought it was like a quick throwaway. We're going to be there for 15 minutes. Then I said, I've worked here for 15 minutes, which is 15 minutes more than she worked here. She lied about McDonald's. And
is that proven that she never worked at McDonald's?
McDonald's has no information. No, she has no information. There's nobody. The manager said she never worked there. It was a certain place, and he said they never. No, she lied.
Wow. That McDonald's stunt will go down in the history books as the greatest political stunt of all time. It was pure entertainment. But you want to know what was even more entertaining was the left's meltdown to it, saying, this event was staged, blah, 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 blah. Their tears were half the fun. And in our next clip from the show, Joe Rogan tells Trump that once he saw him get shot, he's like, yeah, I got to get this guy on my show. And in a hilarious turn of events, Trump shows Joe Rogan his scar from being shot.
He was a nice
once
guy.
They shot you, I was like, he's got to come in here. It's all about timing. It's all about the timing.
I think
timing's perfect. Do you even have a scar on your ear? You got anything
Show
on
it.
there?
I do.
What am I saying?
Show it.
So, right over here.
Oh, it's a tiny little mark.
It zicked right there.
Yeah. It healed up pretty fucking good.
Well, it's pretty good. Yeah, it's little. It's not like some of the wrestlers, some of the UFC fighters.
No, you didn't get cauliflower.
No. It was sort of like a top shot. Mm-hmm. The point of the bullet was a little of the ass, but you see the thing's taken off a little bit, but it makes me a tougher guy. The fighters love their. Bo Nickel, he's a great fighter.
Yeah, I love Bo Nickel.
How's he going to do? I think he's terrific.
He's great. He's a fantastic fighter.
He was almost like undefeated in college.
He's a fantastic wrestler and one of the best mixed martial artists.
When is he fighting again?
He's fighting in Madison Square Garden in November.
Oh, that's going to be after the election?
Yep.
So I'll either go as president or I'll be depressed and I won't bother going.
He's so funny, man. He is that. What a great line. This guy's a comedian. And in our next clip of the night, one of the funniest moments from this podcast came when Trump said, I'm not exactly sure how I get all this publicity, which Joe Rogan responds in the funniest way ever, saying, it's because you say kind of crazy shit. Watch.
I always got more publicity than other people, and it wasn't like I was trying. In fact, I don't know exactly why. Maybe you can tell me why.
Oh, I could definitely tell you. You said a lot of wild shit.
Maybe.
You said a lot of wild shit, and then CNN, in all their brilliance, by highlighting your wild shit, made you much more popular.
Yeah.
And they boosted you in the polls because people were tired of someone talking in this bullshit, pre-prepared politician lingo. And even if they didn't agree with you, they at least knew whoever that guy is, that's him. That's really him. Yeah. When you see certain people talk, certain people in the public eye, you don't know who they are. You have no idea who they are. It's very difficult to know. You see them in conversations. They have these pre-planned answers. They say everything. It's very rehearsed. You never get to the meat of it.
Just like Justin Trudeau and even Kamala, everything is scripted. Everything is fake. There's nothing natural. This is why we like Trump. He speaks from the heart.
Beautiful things about you is that you freeball. Like you get out and you do these huge events and you're just talking and you're making. We've highlighted you on the show many times when you did this Biden impression where he's walking around, he doesn't know what he's doing. It's funny. It's stand up. It's funny stuff. But it's like you were making fun of Elon one time. You were doing an Elon impression. It's great. You have like comedic instincts. Like when you said to Hillary, you'd be in jail. Like that's great timing.
Yeah.
But it's like that kind of stuff was unheard of as a politician. Like no one had done that. And I think...
You know, it's funny. You need at least the attitude of a comedian when you're doing this business.
Agreed.
This is a very dangerous business, first of all. It's a very tough business.
It's the most dangerous business.
It's the most, well, for a job?
Yes. I mean, other than going to war and being a firefighter or being a cop, it's the most dangerous business.
It's the most dangerous. Being president is the most dangerous.
Especially you. I mean, you haven't even got to the election. There's been 2 assassination attempts. And they've brushed those out of the news like it was nothing.
Yeah, they'd rather not talk about them.
Imagine if there was assassination attempts on Biden, how hard people would be attacking the right.
Yes.
How they would be trying to get guns taken away from people. They would try to ramp up gun laws. They would try to figure out some way to blame you. If there was attacks on, if Biden got shot in the ear, we would have never heard the end of it.
But I think he's in good shape because it's only consequential presidents.
Oh, did you guys catch that? Did you catch that last line by Trump there? He says that Joe Biden is safe because they only try to assassinate consequential presidents. Wow.
We would have never heard the end of it.
But I think he's in good shape because it's only consequential presidents.
What a burn. That is a burn. You guys have no idea how much fun I'm having recording this video right now because these clips are pure gold. But this next one is absolutely amazing here as Trump rips into Kamala for being too scared to appear on Joe Rogan. Look at this.
Can you imagine Kamala doing this show?
I could imagine her doing this show.
She'd be laying on the floor.
She was supposed to do it, and she might still do it, and I hope she does.
She's not going to do it.
I will talk to her like a human being. I would try to have a conversation with her.
If she did this kind of an interview with you, I hope she does because it would be a mess. She'd be laying on the floor comatose. She'd be saying, call in the medics.
I think we'd have a fine conversation. I think I'd be able to talk to her. I wouldn't try to interview her. I'd just try to have a conversation with her and hopefully get to know her as a human being. That was my goal, having her on.
And yes, she was too scared to appear on Joe Rogan. As per this exclusive report, Kamala was in advanced talks to appear with Joe Rogan on his podcast, spending the night in ATX, taping, and then going to Houston, Texas for the rally last night. Apparently, law enforcement were notified and everyone was preparing. Trump agreed to no limits on the Joe Rogan podcast, and Kamala would not agree. She had to have pre-scripted questions and pre-scripted time limits. Trump, like a savage, said, I'm in. And Kamala, well, she said, I'm out. But Trump wasn't done just there ripping into Kamala because he went on another hilarious rant about how Kamala has very low IQ because she's a very low IQ person. Watch.
The rhetoric is also that you're Hitler and that in order to stop Hitler, you have to do whatever it takes.
That was okay, yeah.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, you're hearing this now. Kamala compared you to, said your love of Hitler yesterday.
Kamala's a very low IQ person. She's a very low IQ.
Facts.
You know, I'm for taking tests too. I think anybody that runs for president they should give them tests. And it's not an age thing. It's not based. If you look back on history, 70s and 80s, some of your greatest leaders in the world history, long-time world history, they were in their 70s and their 80s. But I think you should take cognitive tests. I think they say it's unconstitutional. But
that's ridiculous.
I think Kamala should have a test because there's something missing. There's something wrong with her.
Well, I think it's pressure. I think the pressure and the scrutiny, you've been a celebrity for a long time and you understand what this is like. But for someone who's in her late 40s, who becomes the vice president, who runs for president, becomes the vice president, and then all of a sudden the weight of the world is on your shoulders and there's all these people paying attention. A lot of people clam up.
But you either have it or you don't.
Correct.
Look. This is an interview. We've covered a lot of territory, right? And you know, it's fine. I don't care. I want to. I think it's much more interesting. To do an interview with Anderson Cooper, a crazy softball interview. She took 2 days off and she studied all day long, and then she comes out with a result that was a real embarrassment. That was a really bad interview. She couldn't answer a question, and every question's not answered. I mean. Like, what would you do your first day in office? Okay, I'll build a wall. I won't build a wall. There's 100 things you can say. Just say anything, right? There's something off with her.
Kamala does have low IQ, and she's definitely weird. There's something off with her. I agree with Trump, but let's keep this show moving along here, because Trump said something really interesting here when Joe Rogan asked him who was mad when you appointed RFK Jr. to your team. And apparently, Big Pharma were not happy with Robert Kennedy Jr. coming on board. Watch.
Do you have anyone that is pressuring you to not work with him? Have there been people that are reaching RFK Jr.?
Yes.
Yes, I would imagine. Because financially, he could put a dent.
I would say that, and you know, I think in many ways they've done a good job. In many ways they've done a bad job. But I would say that the Big Pharma wasn't thrilled when they heard that, you know, I have a relation. I've actually always gotten along very well with him. I've known him a long time. He's a different kind of a guy. He's very smart, great guy. And he's very sincere about this. I mean, he really is, you know, he thinks we spend a fortune on pesticides and all this stuff, and then you end up with that chart is a terrible chart, the one previous. It's such a bad chart when you look at where we are compared to other countries that don't spend 10 cents.
Right.
So, you know, and you save a lot of money. But, yeah, I've had some people that aren't exactly thrilled.
So Big Pharma apparently aren't big fans of RFK Jr. I can't think of a bigger endorsement for him than that. And in another awesome moment on the podcast, Joe Rogan admits to Trump that he's a big fan of JD Vance, just like we all are. Watch this.
Well, they say it made 10-point difference, and I lost by one tenth of a point. They say it was 22,000 votes. But look, it was much more than that, and I appreciate JD Vance saying that. And by the way, I think he was a great pick. Do you like JD as a pick?
I like him a lot. Yeah,
you're allowed to say that.
No, I do. I like him a lot.
I think he's great.
I think he's a brilliant guy, and I think his ability to talk like a normal human being. He did.
And in our last highlight clip from the podcast, Trump actually showed great humility here, and Joe Rogan asked an amazing question, asking Trump, what was your biggest mistake as president? And Trump answered this candidly. Watch.
The biggest mistake I made was I picked some people. I picked some great people, you know, but you don't think about that. I picked some people that I shouldn't have picked. I picked a few people that I shouldn't have picked. And
neocons?
Yeah, neocons, or bad people, or disloyal people, or
people that were just
people
bad,
that were into the
people got bad advice.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're reading about him a little bit today. A guy like Kelly, who was a bully, but a weak person. You know more about bullies than anybody probably around because you deal in a certain sport where the bullies are exposed very quickly.
Yeah.
But he's bad. Bolton was an idiot, but he was great for me because I'd go in with a guy like a John Bolton. You know John Bolton. A friend of mine called me up. I was picking Bolton, and he's a very smart guy. His name is Phil Ruffin. He's a very rich guy from Las Vegas. He's a great card player. He doesn't play cards, but he's a great player. He's just a natural. Got poker sense, right? The good old poker sense. And Phil Ruffin is a very, very wise kind of a guy, and one of the richest people around, and has had great success and understands people. So it was in that I was picking Bolton, or I picked Bolton. He called up. He said, "Don't pick him. Why? He's a bad guy." Now, he wasn't in politics at all. He's in various businesses. He said, "He's a bad guy. It always works out bad with that guy." I said, "Oh, man, I wish you told me this 2 weeks ago. I already hired him. He's here." And he was right. But he was good in a certain way. He's a nut job. And every time I had to deal with a country, when they saw this whack job standing behind me, they said, "Oh, man, Trump's going to go to war with us." He was with Bush when they went stupidly into the Middle East. They should have never done it. I used to say it as a civilian. So I always got more publicity than other people. And it wasn't like I was trying. In fact, I don't know exactly why. Maybe you can tell me why.
Oh, I can definitely tell you.
Say it.
You said a lot of wild shit.
Maybe.
Actually, sorry. I have one more clip to show you guys here from this podcast, and it's the final scene here from the show and the closing statement where Trump tells Joe Rogan that he loved doing this podcast so much that he wants to show up and do it again.
But we'll do it again. I want to do it again with you.
Okay.
You are something They
Thank you
said,
very
I
much.
said, how long will this last? Anywhere from an hour to 3 or 4 hours.
How long we do, Jamie? 3 hours.
Good. Well, we'll do it again. I thought it was great. I think it
was great. It was a lot of fun.
You are a fascinating guy, and you've done a great job.
Thank you very much.
I'm a big fan, and thank you very much. It's been an honor. And
it's been an honor to
have
you on as well.
I'm going to make a great speech, and I'm going to say, and if I'm a little off tonight, I'm going to blame you. I'm going to say I spoke to this guy for 3 hours. Anyway, it's a great honor to be.
Thank you, sir.
With you. Thank you.
Good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
All right.
it.
Bye, everyone.
That was honestly one of the best podcasts I've ever listened to in my life. I really felt like Trump opened up here, showed his likable side, his funny side, his smart side, and he even showed humility, admitting some of his mistakes as president. And Joe Rogan truly understood the moment meeting Mr. President Trump, because as you can see from this tweet here, Joe Rogan broke out his UFC pay-per-view t-shirt to record this podcast. It's serious business. And in our last clip of the night, Trump was on stage later that night at a rally and talked about his new friend Joe Rogan in what I find to be very sweet. Okay, the dark gold MAGA hats are absolute fire.
I got interviewed by actually a great guy. I didn't know him too well, but I got to know him because it was the longest interview I've ever done in my life.
You guys hear that? That's the longest interview Trump has ever given, a 3-hour interview. No fear. He killed it.
Joe Rogan, a good guy. And it's, it's quite something. And we had some other things really important. And I said, we're going to get this stuff done. And my people came to me, sir, we could cancel our evening event. I'm sure the people wouldn't mind. I said, are you crazy? I'm not canceling. There's no way.
There is no harder working man in politics than Trump, and the left love to project about his age. They say, oh, look, Trump's so old. But I'm going to ask you a question. Have you ever seen someone work harder than him? Because Trump is like 40 years older than me and has way more energy and way more work ethic. He's truly one of a kind. Anyways, that's it for today's report, but tell me in the comments down below, what did you guys think of that podcast? Did it live up to the hype? Were you surprised of some of the things that he said? Did you possibly think that Joe Rogan didn't press him enough or didn't ask the questions you wanted to hear? Tell me about the podcast. I want to hear your reviews in the comments down below. If you guys enjoyed today's report and you want to support me, well, the best way to do it is like, share, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. My name is The Pleb. I'll see you at the next report. Peace.